Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here. I want to thank you for your coming today, and I want to thank the people and the government of Ukraine for their warmth and hospitality they've shown me the last 2 days. It's a special honor to be here in Kiev. I know times are difficult for many today, but I'm inspired, and I'm still inspired, as many Americans are, by what happened here less than 5 years ago. That sea of orange that flooded Independence Square, the hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians who poured into Kiev demanding peacefully that their votes be counted and that their voices be heard, is something that will not be forgotten for a long, long time. 40 years before that momentous event, the momentous events of 2004, a former President of the United States and General Dwight D. Eisenhower stood in the center of Washington, D.C., and unveiled a monument to a great Ukrainian poet, Shevchenko. It was 24 feet high, the statue, and it bears these words: dedicated to the liberation, freedom, and independence of all captive nations. Back in 1964, we looked at Shevchenko for hope because he never stopped dreaming of a free Ukraine. And 40 years later, in 2004, we saw what the power of a free people demanding justice could accomplish. Today, Ukrainians should take great pride in what they have achieved. Free and fair elections have become the norm. Freedom of speech is exercised vigorously, as you're all learning and observing. And freedom of the press, as witnessed by the number of cameras that are here today, is well respected in your country. Ukraine today is one of the most free and democratic nations in this region. Near the end of his life, one of the authors of America's freedom, Thomas Jefferson, who is credited with writing the Declaration of Independence, wrote a letter to his old friend and political foe, John Adams. Adams had been the second president of the United States, and Jefferson the third, and they were great friends but political competitors. And he wrote a letter to Adams. There was a long correspondence for decades. He wrote a letter to Adams about 35 years after our revolution. And in the letter he said, "The generation which commences a revolution rarely completes it." The generation which commences a revolution rarely completes it. In any true democracy, freedom is the beginning, not the end. Freedom is merely the beginning, not the end. And here in Ukraine, yours is a revolution still in progress, whose promise remains to be fulfilled. More than anything else, I'm here to say this to the Ukrainian people. Ukraine, as it continues on the path of freedom, democracy, and prosperity, the United States will stand by Ukraine. These are your choices, not ours. But rest assured that we stand with you as you make those choices. The Obama administration will not waver in its support of a strong and independent Ukraine. Charting the future course of Ukraine is, of course, a decision to be made by all of you, not by anyone outside. Based on my discussions yesterday with the bulk of your political leadership, we want for Ukraine what it appears Ukrainians want for themselves: a democratic and prosperous European nation. My visit to Kiev comes soon after President Obama's visit to Moscow. As a matter of fact, they were planned simultaneously. And I know there was some speculation that our decision, as I said in a speech in Munich at the front end of our administration, to press the reset button with Moscow, I know it created some speculations that improving relations with Russia would somehow threaten our ties with Ukraine. Let me say this as clearly as I can. As we reset the relationship with Russia, we reaffirm our commitment to an independent Ukraine. And we recognize no sphere of influence or no ability of any other nation to veto the choices an independent nation makes as to with whom and under what conditions they will associate. We also do not believe in zero-sum thinking. We do not believe that a partnership with one nation must come at the expense of another. It has not, it does not, and it will not. As I said, referencing the Munich Security Conference just weeks after taking office, it holds true again. I want to re-emphasize it. We reject the notion of spheres of influence as 19th century ideas that have no place in the 21st century. And we stand by the principle that sovereign states have a right to make their own decisions, to chart their own foreign policy, to choose their own alliances. President Obama, in his speech in Moscow 2 weeks ago, strongly reaffirmed this principle. He said, and I quote, "State sovereignty must be the cornerstone of international order. Just as all states should have the right to choose their leaders, states must have the right to borders that are secure and to their own foreign policies. Any system that cedes those rights will lead to anarchy. That is why this principle must apply to all nations, including Ukraine." End of quote. We also reaffirm the security assurances the United States, Russia, and the United Kingdom provided Ukraine in 1994 Budapest Memorandum. Our commitment to Ukraine is evidenced through our aid program, $120 million this year to bolster peace and security, strengthen democratic institutions, promote economic growth, modernize your military, secure Chernobyl, fight AIDS and HIV, and improve children's health. We also strongly support it and continue to support the IMF's decision to provide $16 billion to help Ukraine make it through what is an incredibly difficult time as a consequence of a worldwide recession. We've worked with Ukraine to transform your military so that you can protect your homeland and contribute to global security. Young Ukrainian officers have studied in our military academies. American officers have come here to take part in education, training, planning, and organization and exercises. And we're grateful to Ukraine for its contributions to international security. Ukraine's armed forces have been committed peacekeepers from the Balkans to Iraq, even as far afield as Liberia. And we mourn along with you the 6 Ukrainians who perished in last week's helicopter crash in Afghanistan. We have, unfortunately, significant experience in mourning. Ukraine has also been a leader in what President Obama and I believe is our greatest security challenge, the greatest security challenge facing the world, and that is reducing the world's arsenal of nuclear weapons, renewing the non-proliferation system, and securing vulnerable nuclear fissile material.